Hello, my name is Preston, and I'm with Pointit, and thank you for attending our webinar today on Sizzling Hot Tips for PPC and Local Search. It's my pleasure to introduce Dave Kuhl, a client manager here at Pointit, who's going to be talking about content remarketing. Lisa Sanner is a senior client manager at Pointit, and she will be giving a presentation on modified broad match. And then Ben Krull will bring it home with a presentation on local search. A few logistics about the webinar today. This is being recorded so that we will be sending out an email with a link afterwards. So just in case you miss it, we will get that out to you. And we encourage the audience to ask questions throughout so that we can answer those, and any that we can't, we will follow up with after the presentation. A little bit about Pointit. We were launched in April of 2002. We are Seattle's largest independent search marketing firm. Some of our services include paid search management, SEO, local search, as well as display and landing page development. Over the last couple of years, we've managed over $50 million in media budgets, and the current team has 14 members with over 40 years of experience in search. And our clients range across all verticals, all the way up to the Fortune 500s, all the way down to brick and mortar storefronts. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dave, who's going to be talking a little bit more about content remarketing.
Yeah, hi. As Preston just mentioned, my name is Dave Kuhl, and I'll be talking a little bit about what content remarketing is, how to set it up, and why you want to use it. So to jump right in, let's go back and look at what content advertising actually is. Content, as I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with, is these ads that show up around and in content on the internet. So for instance here, we've got The Onion, one of my favorite websites, and you can see that they've got image ads both above and next to, in this case, unrelated content. Sometimes you can get more related content. You just need to target for it. So you've got the image ads, and then you've also got text ads. And again, just next to content, it's usually on news or blogs or YouTube or anything like that is where you'll get the content or display ads. So content remarketing. It actually started about a year ago. It was in the alpha stages, and then it just came out of beta and has been rolled out to pretty much everybody's accounts now as of March of this year. What it allows you to do is it gives marketers and site owners a chance to further target and segment visitors who have visited their site by the behavior or by their history using code snippets and cookies. And it gives you a second chance to market to people who have visited your site. And this allows you to increase your ROI by people who you know have already visited your site and are pretty far down the sales funnel depending on where you're placing the code. And that's another good point. Where you place the code will give you a really good idea about the person and the type of behavior that you're targeting. So, as an example, let's say that I'm looking for golf clubs, and I've been having my eye on these clubs for a long time. I've heard all the buzz about them on the blogs and stuff like that, and they finally come out, and I'm online, and I've put them in my cart, and I've got my credit card out. My hand is shaking. I'm so excited. This is just going to totally revolutionize my whole golf game. And then, being the analytical person that I am, I start thinking about the what ifs. What if I find them on sale tomorrow for 20% off? What if I get them and I don't like them? What's the return policy on them? Or I get distracted, an email comes in, a phone call, something bright and shiny catches my attention. I get distracted and I leave the site. Normally, this is the last time that the site owner is going to be able to have any kind of direct communication with me, knowing that I am who I am and that I'm interested in these clubs. Content remarketing lets you follow people around the net. So a couple days later, when I hop back on and I go to the New York Times, or I go to ESPN and I'm looking at golf scores, or I go to Dig, I I start seeing these ads, and it says mygolfstore.com, or my golf store in this case, in the headline. So immediately I'm transported back, and I remember, oh yeah, I was on this website, and I almost bought these clubs. I know kind of what they've got, and that catches my attention. And now they're offering me 10% to come back and take a look at, and come back basically and take another look. So you can imagine how powerful this is. You get a second chance to say, come back to my site. We've got something new that you haven't seen. And so let's take a look at how to actually set this up, because it's not as straightforward as a lot of the other Google products. So to get started, you're going to need to create a new campaign. As with everything that you do in Google, it should be in a new either campaign or ad group so that you can segment it and keep it separate from other either content campaigns or search campaigns or geo-targets or what have you. Next, after you've created the campaign, you're going to need to create a new ad group. So in this example, I've called it US Remarketing as the campaign, and then Golf Cart Remarketing. Once you've created the new ad group, highlight it, and then go to the Audiences tab. If you don't see the Audiences tab, Google has kind of hidden it away, and here's how to unhide it. Go over to the drop-down arrow on the right-hand side of where all the tabs are, and then click on Audiences, and then OK, and that will bring up the Audience tab right here. So once you click on the Audience tab, go ahead and click Add Audiences. This will bring up a new screen where you'll be able to see all of the remarketing lists that you've got, and then any kind of custom combinations that you have. This is a more advanced technique, and it probably warrants its own webinar or a section in a webinar. Here, let's go to Create and Manage Lists, as we're going to create a new remarketing campaign. Brings up a new page where you click on New Audience and then Remarketing List. So click on that. And this is where you get to name your remarketing list. You can name that here. I just added it, or I called it Cart Ad, as that's what the person is doing. And be sure to make sure that the description is something that you'll remember what it is. So here, it's visitor adds item to their cart, and that's it. Again, if you've got a lot of segments or a lot of people that you're going to target, this is where you can call that out so that you know what you're targeting. Membership duration, I would say 30 days is a great place to start. You can go all the way up to 540 days, but really after 540 days, that person is going to be long gone, and there's really no reason to target to them. However, if you have a lower volume site, you may need to increase the membership duration to 60 days just so that you have enough time to get enough people into the audience. There is a 500 unique person minimum before your ads will start running. So after the first couple of days you've got this going and you don't see anybody, that's why. You need to have 500 unique users, and I'll go into where you can find out that information in a second. Next, as I mentioned before, this whole process is based on cookies and the code snippets. And here is where you're going to say, let's make a new tag. So after you've got all this set, you save it, and it brings up this page. You can see where the membership duration is, and all of your tags and rules, and then the unique or the number of unique users that you have. So for instance, my content remarketing tag has 680, and then again a more advanced one of where someone actually completed the conversion is 12. So to get your tag, all you need to do is click on the rule that you want. So I want the content remarketing one, so I click on it, and it actually brings up a pop-up window where all you need to do is click anywhere in here, it selects the whole thing, and then you put this code on the page where you want people to get tagged. So going back to my golf example, I want anybody who actually adds a item to their cart to be tagged and then remarketed to. So I would add this tag to that page. Now, if you are a e-commerce person or selling stuff online, you want to make sure that you're using the HTTPS version of this, and all you do is click right here, you select HTTPS, and it changes like one letter in here, but it makes it work and it makes it transfer all of the information securely. If you don't do this step, you may have a little pop-up, or your customers may have a little pop-up saying that the information is not being transmitted securely, which could cause doubt in their minds that their personal information is not being transmitted correctly, and they may leave. So make sure that not only that you're using this, but you're testing it and you're making sure that it's working correctly once it's implemented. Moving right along. So that's the nuts and bolts of how to create the campaign, get everything on the back end set up, and now it's much more traditional going forward. So let's take a look at how to set up the ads. Like I said before, you're basically following someone from your website to other websites that they go to where content is displayed and the ads next to the content are being displayed. So as with any kind of content advertising, you really need to stand out because people are not looking for your products when they're out looking at news or blogs or anything else, watching YouTube videos. They're watching the content. So for you to stand out, you need to do something catchy, but since you are kind of following them around, you don't want to be creepy about it. So in my first example, I had put the brand name or the website name in the title. This automatically triggers them to think about what they were doing when they were last on your website. So having the brand name in the headline is a great place to start. Also, once they've read the headline and they remember why they were on the site, like what they were doing there, you need to give them a reason to come back. So in the second portion of this, using coupon codes and limited time offers is a great way to say, hey, I know that you were already here. Why don't you come back and take another look? Here's a 10% off discount coupon or a limited time offer or anything else that would entice people to come back. Again, you don't want to be creepy about this. Saying something like your transaction was 98% complete, or come back and no one gets hurt, or if I don't sell 8 widgets today, they'll beat me. I personally think that that's pretty funny, but a lot of people might take offense to that, or they might think that you're following them around on the internet, which, again, a lot of people don't really like that. So keep it tasteful, but get their attention at the same time. So again, things to keep in mind. When you set this up, you need to wait until you have 500 users before your ads will start running. Google will not start to run ads to, let's say, 5 or 10 people. They need a large enough audience before your ads will start running. So that's where, again, that's the screen, and this is where you can find that number. Also, you need to bid up. For whatever reason, Google Content Network, at least this section of it, requires a higher bid. I've started a lot of my campaigns off at 50 cents or below $1, which may be pretty typical for that campaign and that account. However, I've found that I needed to bid up to at least probably $2 at least to start. My actual CPCs are a lot lower than that, but bidding up to get started is really, really important. So bid up. And that is it for content remarketing. Hopefully you got a lot of good information about that, why you use it, how you can use it, and how you can hopefully get it going for your business. Next up is Lisa Saner, who will be talking to you about modified broad match. Lisa?
Thanks, Dave. Like Dave said, I'm going to be talking about the new Google AdWords modified broad match, also known as broad match modifiers. So Dave, if you can go to the next slide. I have a question for everyone. Have you ever looked at your search query reports or your raw search queries in analytics and have thought, what the heck, why on earth did my ad show up for that search query? I know I have more than once. Almost every time I look at search query reports, I almost have to chuckle at the ridiculous queries our ads are showing up on, especially running broad matches. And you know, it's kind of funny, but wasted clicks, wasted spend, low click-through rates are really no laughing matter when it comes to account management. So in fact, an example, a couple of years ago, a client and I were looking through a search query report, and he just got so frustrated. He was like, okay, no more broad match. We are not buying broad matches, only phrase and exact matches. Well, needless to say, I spent a lot of my time after that doing keyword mining, keyword expansions, trying to get volume out of phrase and exact matches. But it is worth saying that broad match can work well for some advertisers, and it's really about volume, and using broad match allows you to get the greatest reach. It maximizes your opportunity for clicks and conversions. Another important point about broad match is that 20% of queries haven't been seen in the last 90 days. So there's a constant change in the language users are using when they go to that query box and enter a search. So broad match can pick up some of those new trending queries that your phrase and exact matches might not. So, you know, not everyone has the bandwidth or tools to constantly mine new phrase and exact matches and variations, or the tools to bid optimize all those phrase and exact matches. So for those advertisers kind of with a limited bandwidth, broad matches can work because there's far less to manage. Phrase and exact matches, on the other hand, offer advertisers the best control. More precise bid optimization. You can really maximize your ROI by tracking keyword level performance. And some advertisers have some reasons for not buying broad match, because you can have your ads show on possible queries that you have no intention on buying. So, so while broad match offers the greatest reach, phrase and exact match offers the most control. But it seems like there might be something missing. There's something kind of in between there, and that's where Google's now released this modified broad match. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that broad match has the greatest reach. So the big green rectangle is the reach of a broad match. The broad match modifier, or the modified broad match, is a new AdWords targeting feature that was released in mid-July, so it's only been out like a month, and it narrows the range of searches that are triggered by a broad match keyword. For those of us that have been in this business for a while, this new modified broad match is the broad match the way it used to be. So in 2006, Google came out with going away from the traditional broad match to their expanded version of the broad match. The expanded version, and what it is today, adds queries from user behavior as well as highly relational synonym types of words. So when Google made that change, many of us saw all of a sudden a really drop in performance on our broad matches, and we had to do a lot of negative keyword expansions to keep those broad matches running at an acceptable ROI. So the new modified broad match basically uses a modifier or a plus sign in front of the words within the broad match keywords that you want to trigger close variations to that word. And it can be used to drive more relevant traffic and conversions and simplify your negative keyword creation. So to reiterate, it offers greater reach than your phrase and exact matches, but more control than the now expanded broad match. Let's give you a couple examples of how this works with a real example. This chart reinforces the relative reach of the different keywords. So it ranges from the expanded broad match, Italy Villa is the largest ring, to the exact match, Italy Villa, the smallest ring. So let's talk through this a little bit. So going from the exact match, Italy Villa, that user queries and searches on exactly those two words, Italy Villa. On the phrase match, Italy Villa, the user would query something like rent Italy Villa or Italy Villa vacation. So there can be words before or after Italy Villa, but Italy Villa needs to be exactly those two words together in that order. Going out further in terms of reach, you have the fully modified broad match of Italy Villa. So plus sign Italy, plus sign Villa. Italy Villa with the plus signs could pick up synonyms, or not synonyms, excuse me, variations of both Italy and Villa, and it could have words before, after, in between, or it could be a reverse order of Villa and Italy. So something like villas in the Italian countryside, or find a villa in Italy to rent. So it would still have those two words in the query, but it could be variants of the keywords as well as a different order of those words. And then to go out further, a partially modified broad match of Italy Villa, no plus sign Italy, plus sign Villa. So your modifier there is on Villa. So some form Villa needs to be in that query in order for it to map to this keyword. So an example might be Italian villas, villas in Tuscany, I want to move to a villa in northern Italy, queries like that. And then the full expanded broad match, Italy Villa, would map to things such as Italian resorts or rent a house in Venice. So it could be based on that user's behavior and what they've queried in the past as far as if your ad would map to what they're seeing in their search engine results pages. So if you want to go to the next slide, I'll talk about the comparison of match type behavior. So the modified broad match keywords work like other broad match keywords with one key difference. Each word preceded by a plus sign must appear in the user's search exactly or as a close variant. So if you put the plus sign in front of one of your words, that word has to be in the query. Close variants are things like misspellings, spelling variations, singulars, plurals, stemmings. You can see that in that example, Italian, Italy Villa, it would have picked up Italian, even, that's kind of a variation of Italy. So it picks up stemmings like that. It picks up shortenings or abbreviations and acronyms. And it also would pick up variations in the word order. So unlike phrase and exact matches, it would not, so the modified broad match, unlike the expanded broad match, would not pick up those synonyms, those related searches, the behavioral targeting at all. And like phrase and exact match, the words have to be present in the search term if you put that modifier in front of it. So if you're sitting there and you're contemplating whether you should try these modified broad matches, I'd say if you answer yes to any of the above questions, then I'd say test it, try it, and then monitor your ROI at the keyword level and see if it's a good thing for your account. You might be interested in capturing more qualified traffic than your current phrase and exact matches allow. Perhaps you have really tight ROI targets and you need to hit those. So I wouldn't go crazy and start adding modified broad matches to your whole account, but I would look at maybe some ad groups or campaigns that do well, and if you want to go for more volume, this would be a good place to test these. Maybe you have a hard time hitting your ROI targets with your current broad match keywords. Then I would add modifiers to your words in those broad match keywords and see what happens. If your product or your brand name has a lot of misspellings or plural variations, or just people, like if they're actually talking about it and then they go to the internet to actually search on your product, some products are hard to understand when it's word of mouth, and so people have all kinds of ways to spell your products. This might be a really good way to try to pick up all those misspellings rather than using keyword tools. If you're like me and wanted greater control over what queries are mapping to our keywords, this is a way to do that. And then if you want to capture more traffic but you struggle to manage huge, massive keyword lists and constantly add negatives based on your search query reports, there's only so many hours in the day, and believe me, I know you need to maximize the way you spend your time. Modified broad match might be a way to help you create some efficiencies and get better performance. Some implementation tips I'm going to go over that I've learned along the way in the past months since implementing some of these is that you always need to put that plus sign immediately in front of the word that you want to modify. Don't put any spaces between the plus sign and the word. Don't put the plus sign after the word. The plus sign has to go immediately before the first letter of that word. So as far as bidding strategy, Google recommends you not delete any of your existing keywords, but you rather add these modified broad matches to your mix with appropriate bid differential. So they would suggest bidding higher on these modified broad matches than your current broad matches. I take every Google recommendation about bidding with a huge grain of salt. So what I would say is consider bidding lower on your current broad matches, and then taking your bids from your current broad matches and using those on your modified broad matches. I think another strategy I've come up with since these were released is take a look at your high-performing phrase matches and add modifiers to those words. That way you'll be able to pick up volume of all those spelling variations and misspells and stemmings that you wouldn't be able to pick up with your phrase matches. And then, as with anything in pay-per-click, you need to monitor it. You need to look at your search query reports and the user interface where you can see selected terms for certain keywords. You just need to monitor that these are doing what you want them to do, and look at conversion and cost per conversion level, keyword level data in order to see if these are performing or not. So I think that covers a lot on the new modified broad match, and I'm going to turn it now over to Ben to talk about local search.
Thanks so much, Lisa. As was mentioned, my name is Ben Kroll. I'm a senior client manager here at Pointit, and with a specialty being focused around SEO. So today, in relation to that, I wanted to talk about some of the things that we're seeing in local search, some of the new things that have recently come out. There are really 3 new features we wanted to talk about in Google Places. Also some changes that we're seeing to the Google OneBox and kind of how we see that impacting your business. And then lastly, wanted to talk about some of the longer-term trends and changes that we're seeing really in kind of the local search landscape and some of the recent tests that Google has been doing, and just talk about how that will, or how that could potentially impact local search over the next few years. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. Before we get into those things, I just want to talk a little bit about kind of the local search landscape, where things are at right now. So you can see on this chart, this is from ComScore's search report that measures the number of search queries every month across the major search engines out there. So in June, there were about 16,439,000,000 searches across all the major search engines. And of course, Google is taking the biggest majority of that with just over 10 billion searches. And so I'll kind of caveat these numbers are for the total search landscape. But what Google has said a number of times is that about 20% of the searches that they see on an everyday basis have some type of local intent built in. So they're, people looking for local businesses or maybe places of interest, tourist attractions, anything that has kind of that local indicator to it would be included in that. So we're really seeing a huge chunk of searches out there. Just on Google alone, there would be a little over 2 billion searches that are really focused on this local space. So really a large opportunity here, and so it's why we wanted to bring some of these changes and trends to the forefront in the webinar here. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into the first new feature. And I guess before I get too far into it, for those of you who don't know, back in April, Google rebranded their what's now called Google Places. It was previously called Google Local Business Center, which is where they let local businesses submit their address, phone number, hours of business, all those type of kind of basic business information things, so that you could show up in searches done on Google Maps, show up in the local search results that they have in the regular search listings. And so this is a great way for local businesses to kind of get the word out about their business and really speak to the potential customers that are nearby that would be a potential for them to come into the business. So the first new feature that Google has released here is called Review Responses. And so what they've allowed here to businesses to do here is really respond to any review that someone is placing on their Google Places listing. So you can see in the example here, the person had a bit of a negative experience with the business. The ice cream pie that they had ordered melted, and so they were pretty upset about that it was left out and then basically got ruined. And so this new feature really allowed the Breeze ice cream pies to really respond to that concern, apologize for what happened, and kind of reassure the customer that this is not a normal occurrence. It's something that was an accident, and something that they're going to kind of talk with their team and make sure it doesn't happen again. So just a great way of kind of reassuring that customer that customer service is very important to the business, and hopefully it'll encourage that customer to give their business another try or a second chance to make up for what they did. Now the great thing about this from a business owner's perspective is that these responses don't just go to the person that left the review. They're also visible on your Google Places page right below the person's review. So as potential customers are coming in and kind of looking at your business and deciding if it's a if it's a business that they trust and think that has good customer service, they'll be able to read those responses that you give to your other reviewers and see that you're willing to kind of own up to any mistakes that happen and reassure them that you're doing everything you can to correct the issue and take care of it and make sure that that it won't happen again in the future. So you can really see the value of this come out when potential customers are looking at your business and seeing kind of that positive response to maybe it's negative reviews, maybe a person just left incorrect information or something wrong about your business that you need to correct. So there's a lot of potential ways that you can use this new feature to really help kind of manage the reputation that you have on your Google Places listing. Let's go ahead and go to the next feature here. This one's called real-time updates. And again, here on your Google Places page, what you'll see is Google has introduced a way to include kind of limited length messages right near the top of your page here. You'll see it in the example, kind of in the red outlined box there. And so it gives businesses a way to announce maybe a current special that they have going on, maybe an event that's coming up this weekend for people to come check out, or maybe in the case of this example, being able to announce a new product that the winery has just released, and so encouraging customers or potential customers to check out the new wine and maybe give it a try. And so what I really like about this feature is that it really has a lot of similarities to Twitter and kind of how that messaging platform works. So again, if you're a business that's already out there using Twitter or maybe using Facebook, similar kind of social media platforms like that, this is a great place to really kind of repurpose a lot of that content that you're already posting out there. It's a very quick and easy thing to do. As you can tell in the example, a person can, a business owner can go in and post this message, and it'll show up a minute or two later on the page and be available for for potential customers to start seeing. So it's a great way to get out quick information, and you can include a link to for the users to go find more specific information in the same way that you would with Twitter or Facebook. So again, I just think it's a great extension on especially for businesses that are already using some of those other social media platforms. And then the last feature I wanted to talk about is service areas. And so what Google has come out with here is they've given businesses a way to really showcase what part of the city or area are they willing to serve. And this is particularly helpful for businesses that are traveling to their customer's home or their place of business to provide service. So you can think of an example like a plumber who's going to someone's home to fix the plumbing. Or in the case of some of these examples here, a dog walking service that's going to go to someone's home and take their pets out for a walk. I just think I see it as a lot of potential, because if you are one of those types of services, you don't want customers that are calling you from maybe 60, 70 miles away if you're really only willing to drive or go 20 miles. And so this gives you a way to kind of really be targeted on who you're trying to reach, where you're willing to serve, and it also really helps with focusing on kind of the right audience for you, and helps you capture some of those maybe nearby cities that you might not normally show up in. Say if your business is located in a smaller suburb, you might want to show up in kind of the main metro area or the main city for your service. So this gives you a great way to really showcase all the areas that you're willing to serve. And Google is given a couple of different options here. The first one in the example here is if you have kind of a storefront or a business office where you want people to come in, they'll let you list that and then include, maybe a 20-mile radius away from that office location. Or if you don't have kind of a retail storefront or any type of office location where potential customers come in, you can actually include the service area without including your specific address. So it's a great way for maybe smaller businesses that have maybe their own kind of private office, but don't have a place for customers to come into the office, or maybe for folks working out of their home or home office, where again they might not want the general public to to come into their home. Again, this just gives you a great way to put your service out there without putting out your private address. So the next part, we'll kind of transition into Google OneBox. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, basically that's Google's way of kind of showcasing the most relevant local business information they have for a specific business right in the normal search results. So you don't have to go click off to the maps listings or anything like that. They're able to kind of follow that information right up to the forefront when they see that a search is has some type of local intent or is for a local attraction. So in the example I used here for the Seattle Underground Tour, you can see kind of the information here that Google has placed in the OneBox. All the relevant information, the title of it, and so some of the changes that we're really seeing here is that really the one big one is that the title of the business no longer links to the official business website, and we see this as a pretty big change because it has the potential to lose a lot of traffic for many local businesses. Oftentimes people will see those listings and just click on the title of it, and they'll go straight to the web page. And so what Google has done here is, in place of that link to kind of the main website, they've included a link right below the title to the Google Place page. And so you can see this as a way that Google is kind of emphasizing those newer place pages, kind of starting to build visibility for that service that Google offers. And so, we see this as a way that, place pages are starting to get more and more visible. We think they're going to have, more and more people utilizing that service. And so this is one of the ways that they'll start to bring that to the forefront. Some of the other things they're really doing here is including the address, including your hours of operation, and including the reviews right in the Google OneBox listing. So you're seeing that right away. And so you really want to make sure that information is correct. Hopefully, it's all positive information as well, especially in terms of the reviews, because people might see that before they even get to your site. And if there's something negative there, decide that they're going to try another local service or another local business that might have better better reviews. So again, this just shows the importance of kind of making sure that the information in that Google OneBox is correct and that is presenting your business in a strong light. And so on the next slide here, wanted to talk a little bit about some of the recent tests that Google has done, and we're really seeing some dramatic changes here in the way that kind of these local listings are formed. And so in this screenshot, what you'll see here is these are normally where the standard organic search engine rankings would go and would show up. But what we're actually seeing here is in the example search for optometrists, Raleigh, North Carolina, they're actually bringing local business websites from their local search center and pulling them into this interface in a very integrated manner So much so that the actual organic rankings are way down at the bottom of the page. You can't even see them in the screenshot because they are pushed so far down. And so we really see this as potentially a huge change in the interface for local businesses, especially having a big impact on sites like the Yellow Pages, where they're often having a directory of these local businesses. But on the flip side, we see this as a huge benefit for those businesses with locations out there as a way to really emphasize their visibility and gain an advantage over some of those bigger kind of national competitors. So on the next slide, we'll kind of go into some of the more detailed areas of changes that we're seeing here. The first thing I wanted to point out is the large map on the right side of the listings. And so what that's doing is it's kind of showcasing where each of these local businesses are located, which gives users a great kind of instant sense of how close is this business to me. Is it so far away that I shouldn't even consider it? And what happens is, as the user scrolls down the page, that map actually scrolls with you, and so you can see that at any time. And so it's, again, a great way for users to see where those businesses are located. Another pretty big change here on these local listings is, again, they're including they're making the reviews much more prominent. So including the star ratings of the review to see how well rated the business is. Also including a link to the number of reviews that are out there for that business, which would allow people to instantly go see what the people are saying about potentially your local business. You can also see kind of right under the normal search listing, they've included the address as well as the phone number. Potentially some of them also have kind of a snippet of reviews out there as well. So again, really in this changed interface, really emphasizing reviews, making them very prominent, so that if a user again were to see this interface, they'd really see what reviews are coming up for your business. How are you perceived out in kind of the local market? And again, if reviews are not good, they'll probably look elsewhere for to take their business. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of mention again here is Google has included a link to the place page. And so again, you can just see how they're starting to build more and more prominence for that service, the Google Place pages. And again, we just think this, even though this is currently just a test, it's available to a very limited number of people out there. We think this kind of shows the direction that Google is working toward, kind of shows what they're thinking internally. And so you can really use this in your future planning to say, if I'm trying to rank for local searches, I really need to be ranking well in that local search interface, not just in the standard organic listings. So to kind of wrap things up with some takeaways here, one of the biggest things we see is that searchers are going to be instantly seeing a lot of your key business information, your address, your phone number, your hours. So you really need to make sure that those things are accurate. And the thing that we're getting those is they're on the Google Places page. So you can go check out your Google Places page, make sure that that information is accurate, so the users are getting a very positive experience. The second big takeaway is we're really seeing reviews coming up all over the place in these new listings, really being prominently featured. And so we consistently see that managing those business reviews is going to be very critical. And if you have negative reviews out there, certainly encourage you to take advantage of the new review response feature to respond to any of those reviews and maintain a positive business image out there. And then lastly, from an overall trends perspective and kind of what we're seeing in the local landscape, we really see that these local listings and place pages are really gaining a lot of prominence in Google. You know, they're showing up in more and more of the links, being highlighted throughout the interface. And so we just see this as, you know, more people will start to be using these services. So if you haven't already, we certainly encourage you, now is the time to take control of your Google Places listing, verify that it's yours, make sure all the information is accurate, and lastly, make sure that it's ranking well in the local search results, especially if those search interface changes, you know, kind of get rolled out to a larger audience. We'll start to see that those local rankings will become very important. And so with that, that kind of wraps up my talk about local search. I will turn it back over to Preston for the Q&A.
Thanks, Ben. That was some great information there. I know that I learned a lot about search. But now we're going to move into the Q&A section. And we just, for the sake of time, have a few questions from the audience. Once again, if you have any questions that we don't address in this section, we have the email addresses for Dave, Lisa, and Ben. If you want to send them a message directly about each of their individual portions regarding search. So the first question is actually about content remarketing. The question is, can you just use content remarketing out of a shopping cart, or if not, where else can you use it?
No, it's not limited just to shopping carts. You can place that code on any page that you want. Again, it's all cookie-based, and wherever you place the code on your site, on a page, is where you're going to be tagging people. So, for instance, you may not want to have, or at least I wouldn't want to be remarketing to every single person who came to my website. So putting it on the home page wouldn't be a great idea. But if I had a map with all of my vendors on it or store locations, that might be a good one to tag so that I know that every single person who I'm remarketing to has gone and actively looked out and searched for all of my store locations.
Great. Thanks, Dave. The next question is in regards to local search, and it's, can you control what reviews are shown in Google?
Sure. So right now, the way Google is kind of showcasing those reviews is basically they're looking at it and showcasing reviews on their own algorithmically. But there are some ways that you can influence what those reviews are. So one thing I'd certainly encourage you to do is encourage your customers to be leaving those positive reviews. Certainly, the more positive sentiments that you have out there, the more likely it is that Google will kind of showcase one of those positive reviews versus maybe if you do have an occasional negative one, they won't showcase that unless they see that as kind of the overall trend. And secondly, certainly if you do have a negative review being featured right now, definitely encourage you to take advantage of the feature to be able to respond to that and make sure that you're doing everything you can to kind of manage that negative response.
And we have one last question from the audience, and this one is going to go back to you again, Ben. Where do the reviews come from?
So Google is actually a little bit different than a lot of the other sites out there. They're actually pulling in reviews from a lot of different locations, really as many as they can find. So sites like Yelp, City Search, Insider Pages, YellowPages.com, really a lot of the big, kind of local sites out there. Google will be pulling in reviews from all those sites and really trying to aggregate it. And the reason that they're doing that is they really want to try to give users a very full picture of all the reviews that are out there and kind of aggregate everything and showcase it in one place. So you really, in terms of managing those reviews, you kind of have to be a little careful because you'll potentially have reviews coming in from a lot of locations. So you'll have to go back to those original locations to be able to manage those reviews.
Okay, that is all for questions. Once again, if you have any follow-up questions, go ahead and email Dave, Lisa, or Ben directly. I wanted to thank everyone for attending our webinar today. This is just one in an ongoing series, and we would really appreciate if there are any topics that you'd like us to cover, to just go ahead and send those in so that we can keep this